Have you ever asked yourself the question, what does God really care about? I mean, there's a lot in the Bible. So if you were boiling things down, what is it that he cares about? Today's reading centers on Micah 6:8. Micah was a prophet to both Judah and the northern kingdom of Samaria before they were both destroyed for their unrighteousness, for their disobedience against God's law that we have been soaked in Deuteronomy. Micah chapter 6 is where Micah brings the case God has against his people. He says, God is saying, what have I done to you that you are acting like this, that you've forsaken me? And then we'll pick up in verse 6. The response of the prophet on behalf of the people is, okay, God, you're angry with us for what we have done and what we've left undone. What should we do? He says, should we come before God with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with 1,000 rams? Remember all these sacrifices prescribed in the law? With 10,000 rivers of olive oil, shall I offer my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? How do we make it right, the stuff that we have done and the stuff that we have left undone? And God speaks back. He says, He's shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? Now you might be able to complete the next sentence. It says to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God. To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God. Now, I started at verse 6 because what the prophet offers as a way to make it right are these acts of piety. They are religious acts of worship. Slaughtering the goats, offering even the firstborn child. Like what should we do? Should we make our worship bigger, louder? Should we sacrifice? And the response brings them up short. And I'll try to translate this for our modern equivalent, but what he's saying is, I don't want all of your symbolism. What I want is for when you go out in your daily life to act justly. That means like to judge fairly. Don't allow yourself to be fooled by how people look, by what people give you as bribes or gifts. Act justly, so judge with the right view of God. Love mercy. Mercy is often translated kindness or love or goodness. Like, love mercy. Sometimes mercy is hard to show, oftentimes. Mercy is God's heart towards us, and He wants us to love mercy, so to practice it towards others. And to walk humbly with God. And what does it look like to walk humbly? Humility certainly doesn't allow for boasting or self-righteousness or coercion of other people. Humility is about patience and integrity in the quiet moments of faith with God, that what we see on the outside matches what God sees on the inside in our hidden moments with Him. So for us, what does this mean? It's easy for me in church every week, has been my whole life, to go through religious motions. And there is value in spiritual practices, just as there was value in the sacrifices laid out in the law. But at the heart of the law, all of these practices are intended to yield fruit in us. And what is that fruit? In the Old Testament here in Micah, it's listed as to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God. The practices are intended to yield transformation of our hearts so that we might look more like God, whose image we bear. If you've been following along with our Cultivate series on Sundays, you know that the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. The practices we offer are intended to cultivate life with God that yields that kind of fruit. Justice, mercy, humility with God. So my question to you is, what are you practicing? What are you practicing? You might have spiritual practices. And if that's the case, is it yielding good fruit in you? Is it turning you towards justice and mercy and humility with God? If not, take a moment to inventory those. Why are they not doing that? Is it time to try something new or to drop something off? Maybe you are practicing things that aren't at all nourishing to your spirit. What are you practicing? Are you practicing hurry? Are you practicing worry? Are you practicing distraction and fear and angst? What kind of fruit is that yielding in you? Micah 6:8 really boils down the whole purpose of the law, which is that God's people, this light to the nations, might act justly, might love mercy, and might walk humbly with God. I hope that's true for you, my friends. Have a great day.